Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are stepping into a territory that feels a little bit dangerous, a little bit shadowy, and honestly incredibly necessary.
Hmm.
We are talking about what I like to call the invisible game.
The invisible game.
Yeah.
That does sound a bit ominous, doesn't it? Like we're about to discuss espionage.
In a way, we are, but it's the espionage of everyday life. I'm talking about the power dynamics that are constantly swirling around us.
Okay.
Whether you are sitting in a high-stakes boardroom, trying to navigate a tense family reunion, or, just trying to get a refund at a coffee shop, there is a subtext to every single interaction.
Right. There are the words people are saying, and then there's what's actually happening.
Exactly. And the premise we are working with today is that most of us just stumble through these dynamics blindly. We react to what people say, we get emotional, we get outplayed.
While the other side, the people who actually understand what's happening, are playing by a very different set of rules.
And that is a frustrating feeling, right? To lose a game you didn't even know you were playing. It's infuriating. So today is about leveling the playing field. We are opening up the playbook. We are tackling one of the most talked about, most referenced, and frankly, most controversial books in the modern business canon. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Published by Penguin Books back in 2000, and it has not left the cultural conversation since. It is a fascinating beast of a book.
It really is. It has this reputation as a cult classic.
Yeah.
You hear it whispered about in Silicon Valley boardrooms as this secret weapon for CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also hear it name dropped in hip hop tracks. 50 Cent is a massive fan, for instance. He even collaborated with Greene. It's described as irreverent, compelling, and essential reading for anyone trying to navigate high stakes environments.
Yeah.
But looking at the research packet we pulled together, we have to address the elephant in the room immediately. This book is polarizing.
Polarizing, might be putting it lightly. When we analyzed the review summaries and the reception history, the split was incredibly stark. On one side, you have readers calling it a profound, almost Shakespearean analysis of history and human nature.
They see it as a survival guide.
A survival guide for a ruthless world. Exactly.
And on the other side,
morally reprehensible. That was a direct quote from a major review. There are plenty of critics who view this book as a manual for evil.
wow.
They argue it advocates for manipulation, deception, and the total destruction of your enemies. We saw reviews from people saying they essentially blacklist anyone who recommends this book.
So it's a giant red flag for them.
A giant red flag for a sociopathic personality.
Yeah. Which puts us in a delicate position for this deep dive. Because our goal here isn't to tell you to go out and become a Machiavellian villain.
No.
We aren't suggesting you start plotting the downfall of your coworkers or manipulating your friends.
No, absolutely not. The mission of this deep dive is to decode the mechanics presented in the text. We are looking at these laws impartially, purely as a study of strategy and psychology.
Right.
Think of it like learning a martial art, or maybe studying a virus. You don't study a virus because you want to infect people.
Right.
You study it so you understand how it spreads, how it mutates, and ultimately how to develop a vaccine.
That's the self-defense argument. I like that.
Precisely. And that is the key value proposition for you listening today. It's about awareness. Even if you have zero interest in manipulating others, even if you want to live a life of total transparency, you can be 100% sure that someone else out there is playing this game.
And if you don't know the rules?
If you can't spot the dynamic, you're vulnerable. If you can spot it, you can neutralize it.
So we've taken this massive tome. 48 laws is a lot to digest in one sitting.
It's huge.
And we've distilled it down to 6 specific high-leverage strategies. And what makes Greene's work so sticky is that he doesn't just give you a dry theory. He backs everything up with these wild, intricate historical stories.
Oh, the stories are incredible.
We're going to go from the blood-soaked streets of the French Revolution to the banks of the Nile in ancient Egypt, and even to a Cold War chessboard in Reykjavik.
It is effectively a journey through the history of influence.
So let's jump in. The first segment, the absolute foundation of everything we're going to discuss, is what we're calling Read the Room. Or in Greene's terminology, identifying power dynamics.
Right. And if you ask any high-level strategist, whether they are in the military, in politics, or running a Fortune 500 company, what the single most important skill is, they won't say strength.
No.
They won't say intelligence. They won't even say charisma. They will say situational awareness.
The ability to see what's actually happening, not just what's on the surface.
Exactly. Greene argues that power is a fluid thing. It's an invisible current. In any group of people, you have the organizational chart, the piece of paper that says who is the manager or the director.
That's the official story.
That's the static view. That is how things are supposed to work. But the invisible current tells you who actually holds the influence, who is driving the decisions, who is feared, who is respected.
So if you only look at the org chart,
You're looking at a map of a territory that doesn't exist anymore.
and the case study Greene uses to illustrate this is just, it's chilling. We're talking about a man named Joseph Fouché.
Oh, the ultimate survivor.
This guy's story is incredible. So set the scene for us. We are in France, late 1700s. The French Revolution is kicking off. It is a dangerous, bloody, chaotic time.
Utter chaos.
Fouché starts out as this obscure seminary teacher. He's a nobody. He's not a general. He's not a royal. He doesn't have a massive family fortune.
And yet, over the next few turbulent decades, he manages to rise to become the minister of police. But what makes Fouché a legend in the history of power isn't just that he rose, it's that he stayed there.
Right, because the government kept collapsing. It wasn't just elections, it was violent revolutions.
Heads were literally rolling.
He survived the fall of the monarchy. He survived the reign of terror under Robespierre. He served the Directory. He served Napoleon Bonaparte. And then, when the monarchy came back, the very people he helped overthrow, he survived that too and served the king.
It's unbelievable.
He's like the Forrest Gump of French political intrigue, if Forrest Gump was a ruthless pragmatist who knew where all the bodies were buried.
A much darker, sharper Forrest Gump. But the question we have to ask is, how? How does someone survive when every leader he serves eventually gets executed or exiled?
Right.
Greene points to Fouché's supernatural ability to read the changing dynamics before anyone else did. He didn't have loyalty to people, he had loyalty to the current.
Let's look at the Robespierre example, because that seems like the moment of highest danger. Robespierre was the face of the terror. He was sending people to the guillotine daily.
The slightest offense, and you were done.
If you looked at him sideways, you lost your head. And eventually, he decided Fouché was a threat.
And this is the critical moment. Most people, when a dictator like Robespierre turned his gaze on them, they panicked. They tried to plead their case, which usually failed because Robespierre wasn't interested in mercy, or they fled the country and lost everything.
Fouché didn't either.
He went quiet. She read the room. He realized that while Robespierre was powerful, he was also terrifying everyone else in the government.
So he saw a weakness.
A huge one. The atmosphere was thick with fear. Robespierre had overplayed his hand. He was creating more enemies than he could kill.
So Fouché didn't try to fight Robespierre head-on. He didn't make a big dramatic speech in the convention denouncing him.
No, that would have been suicide. He worked in the shadows. He went to other powerful figures who were secretly afraid they were next on the list.
He starts building a coalition.
Exactly. He whispered in their ears, "You know he's coming for you next, right? You know you can't trust him." He built a coalition based on that shared fear.
And he waited.
He waited until the momentum had shifted just enough, until the current was turning against Robespierre, and then snap, he struck. Robespierre fell and was executed. Fouché survived to serve the next government.
It's almost reptilian in its coldness, but you can't deny the effectiveness. He wasn't loyal to a person. He was attuned to the power dynamic.
And that's the lesson. He didn't just cling to the leader. He watched the current. When Napoleon was rising, he was with Napoleon. When he sensed Napoleon was overreaching, invading Russia, making enemies of all of Europe, and the tide was turning, Fouché distanced himself just enough to survive the crash.
Okay, so bringing this to the modern day, hopefully our listeners aren't facing the guillotine at their next quarterly review.
Hopefully not.
How do we apply this read the room concept in a contemporary setting?
Greene gives some very specific, actionable advice here. The first rule is, observe before acting. This is harder than it sounds.
Oh, yeah.
When you enter a new environment, a new job, a social circle, a negotiation, you have this urge to prove yourself. You want to jump in, start talking, show you're smart, show you belong. Greene says, stop. Step back.
You're gathering intelligence. You're Fouché in the corner.
Precisely. And you want to ignore the titles. Don't look at who is sitting at the head of the table. That's the ceremonial power. Look at the eyes. Look at who people look at when a hard question is asked.
Oh, that's a good one, the glance check.
It never fails. The CEO might ask a question, but everyone's eyes might dart to the CFO or maybe even a senior engineer before they answer.
Right.
That tells you where the real validation comes from. That tells you whose opinion actually moves the needle. Watch for the deference. Who stops talking when someone else interrupts? Who controls the flow of the conversation?
And he talks about energy shifts as well.
Yes. This is a bit more subtle, but you can feel it. You know those people who change the atmosphere just by walking into a room? Maybe everyone sits up a little straighter, or the conversation gets a little more hushed, or the jokes stop.
Yeah.
That is a marker of power, regardless of what their business card says.
And I think the sources mention resource control, too.
Yes. Who holds the keys? Sometimes literally, but usually metaphorically. Who has the information everyone needs? Who has access to the budget? Who has the ear of the decision maker?
That person might not be a VP.
That person might be an executive assistant. And if you treat the assistant like a nobody because they don't have a fancy title, you are digging your own grave. You're navigating blindly because they control access to the person you actually need to reach.
It really is like seeing the Matrix. Once you stop looking at the surface, the titles, the polite pleasantries, and start looking at these currents of deference and resource control, everything looks different.
You realize the boss might be in charge on paper, but someone else is steering the ship.
And that awareness is the first step to any kind of strategy.
You can't play the game if you can't see the board.
Okay, let's move to segment 2. So, you've read the room, you know where the power lies. Now, Greene says you have to turn the lens on yourself. This is about crafting your persona.
Strategic self-presentation. This is the idea that you shouldn't leave your reputation to chance. Most people just are who they are and hope people appreciate it. They think authenticity means having no filter.
Which can be a disaster.
Greene says that is naive. You should consciously shape how others perceive you.
And for this, we have possibly the most theatrical example in the entire book. We are going back to 41 BC, Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
A masterclass in staging. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a performance.
So set the scene. It's ancient history. Mark Antony is one of the most powerful men in Rome. He's part of the triumvirate. He's taking control of the Eastern Empire.
So he's the man in charge.
Right. He summons Cleopatra to meet him in Tarsus. He wants to assert his authority over Egypt. Essentially, he's calling her into his office to bend the knee. He expects her to show up humble, submissive, pleading for her kingdom.
Right. She is a foreign queen, her position is precarious, and he's the Roman conqueror. The power dynamic should be entirely in his favor. He holds all the cards.
But Cleopatra doesn't just show up. She delays. She makes him wait. She sends vague messages. And then she arrives.
But not in a normal way.
No. She doesn't arrive on a horse or in a carriage. She sails up the Cydnus River on this massive custom-built barge.
And barge doesn't even do it justice.
No. To call it a boat is an insult. It has purple sails.
Yeah.
Now, we have to remember, in the ancient world, purple dye was incredibly rare and expensive.
Made from crushed sea snails, right?
Yeah, thousands of them for a tiny bit of dye. It was the color of royalty. Just the sails alone signaled immense, staggering wealth. It has silver oars beating time to music flutes and pipes playing a rhythm.
So it's a whole sensory experience.
And the visuals. She is lying under a golden canopy, dressed not as a queen, but as the goddess Aphrodite. She has young boys dressed as cupids fanning her. She has her most beautiful maids dressed as sea nymphs and graces steering the rudder.
This is unbelievable.
And she's burning so much exotic incense and perfume that historical accounts say people on the riverbanks could smell her coming before they could even see the ship.
Wow. It's a complete sensory overload.
The crowd in the city goes wild. They abandon Antony in the marketplace to run to the river to see this goddess. So Antony, the great Roman general, is left sitting there alone on his tribunal, waiting for her.
The dynamic shifted instantly. She wasn't a politician coming to negotiate terms. She was a deity granting an audience. She completely flipped the script.
And it worked.
Right.
Antony was completely captivated. He forgot he was supposed to be the boss. He went to her on the boat.
Because she appealed to his vanity and his love for spectacle. Antony wasn't a stoic, bureaucratic Roman. He was a lover of pleasure and grandeur.
She knew her audience.
She knew her audience. She created a persona that overwhelmed him. She defined the interaction before a single word was spoken.
So, applying this to you listening today, we probably shouldn't show up to our next performance review on a barge dressed as a Greek god.
It might be a bit much for a Zoom call. You might get a call from HR.
Just a little. But what is the takeaway here? It feels a bit manipulative to perform a personality.
The concept is selective authenticity. I think that's a healthier way to view it.
I like that term. Break that down.
It's important to distinguish this from lying. You aren't pretending to be someone you aren't. You are choosing which truth to highlight.
Okay.
We all have different sides to our personality. We have a side that is goofy, a side that is serious, a side that is anxious, a side that is assertive.
Right. I'm different with my kids than I am with my accountant. I'm different at a funeral than I am at a birthday party.
Exactly. Strategic self-presentation means asking, what impression do I need to make right now to achieve my goal? If you are in a crisis meeting and you need to be seen as a leader, you don't highlight your indecisive, ponderous side.
You bring out the calm, assertive side?
You highlight your assertive, calm side. You curate the self you present. And you align the visuals with that goal.
For sure, the nonverbal stuff.
Definitely. It's your clothes, your posture, even the objects on your desk. If you want to be seen as organized and efficient, but your background is a chaotic mess of papers and old coffee cups, you are sending a mixed signal.
You're undermining your own message.
Cleopatra understood that everything, the sails, the scent, the music, had to tell the same story. I am a goddess, I am wealth, I am power.
It's like being the director of your own movie. If you frame yourself as an extra in the background, people will treat you like an extra.
Right.
If you frame yourself as the lead, people start treating you differently.
Precisely. Don't wait for people to figure out who you are deep down. Show them who you want to be.
Moving on to segment 3. This one is tricky. It's subtle. We're talking about mastering timing.
Timing is the difference between a temporary victory and lasting success. You can have the right idea, the right persona, and the right analysis, but if you deploy them at the wrong moment, you fail.
And the example here shifts us to the 20th century, a chess match. But not just any chess match.
Yeah.
The 1972 World Championship between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky.
The match of the century. The Cold War played out on a chessboard.
This story is absolute chaos. I knew Fischer was eccentric, but looking at the details, wow. So Spassky is the Soviet champion. He is the product of the Soviet chess machine, disciplined, calm, collected.
The epitome of composure.
Fischer is the American challenger. And before the match even starts, Fischer is creating havoc.
He arrives late. He complains about everything. The lighting is too bright. The audience is too loud. The chessboard is too shiny. He complains about the chairs.
The chairs.
The chairs. He threatens not to play at all. He is creating an atmosphere of total unpredictability. Spassky is sitting there, ready to play, and Fischer is playing mind games.
And then game 1 starts. Fischer plays a move that experts said was terrible, just a rookie mistake. He loses his bishop. He loses the game. It looked like he was crumbling.
Right.
But then, for game 2...
He doesn't show up. He forfeits. He stays in his room.
What? In the World Championship?
The World Championship. Now he is down 0-2. In chess, at that level, coming back from 2 games down is almost statistically impossible. It looked like a total meltdown. Everyone thought Fischer was going home.
But then comes game 3.
Game 3. Fischer returns. They agree to play in a small back room, away from the cameras because Fischer said the cameras were too loud. And suddenly Fischer plays with this ferocious, terrifying intensity.
Yeah, unleashes.
He starts playing brilliant, unconventional traps. Spassky, who's usually unflappable, starts to crack. He becomes paranoid. He starts thinking Fischer is doing something to the room, maybe using hypnosis or chemicals.
They actually had the chairs x-rayed to see if there were devices inside.
They did. It's incredible. Spassky eventually resigns the match. Fischer broke him psychologically.
And that is the lesson in timing. Fischer used time as a weapon. He didn't just play the board, he played the clock and the calendar.
So let's break down the analysis here. Greene talks about 3 types of timing.
Right.
First, you have long-term timing. This is patience. Knowing that the game is long and being able to wait and gently guide things. This is suppressing your need for immediate gratification.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there's a medium-term timing.
Which is what Fischer did perfectly. This is about manipulating time to create an advantage. Fischer disrupted the flow.
He broke Spassky's rhythm.
He made Spassky wait. He sped things up, then slowed them down. He broke his opponent's rhythm. If your opponent wants to go fast, you go slow. If they want to go slow, you force the pace. You make them play on your timeline.
And finally, immediate timing.
That's the strike. That's the moment when the window opens, when the opponent blinks, and you have to act swiftly and decisively.
The hardest part about this, I imagine, is the emotional control.
That is the big takeaway. Most of us act prematurely because we are anxious. We want the problem to be solved now. We send that angry email at 11 p.m. because we want to feel better.
Guilty.
Or we wait too long because we are afraid. Greene argues that you need emotional discipline. You have to suppress that anxiety.
Yeah.
Wait for the precise moment when your action will have the most impact.
It's the difference between swinging a bat wildly the moment the pitcher winds up and waiting for the ball to be right in the sweet spot.
Exactly. The swing is the same, but the timing changes everything.
All right, segment 4, control the narrative.
This is a huge one. This creates the reality in which everyone else operates.
The core concept here is that facts are neutral. Things happen. But stories give those things meaning, and if you don't define the story, someone else will.
And usually to your detriment.
The historical case study here is Talleyrand versus Napoleon. We're back in France. It's 1814. Napoleon has been defeated and exiled to the island of Elba.
But he's not dead. And he's still terrifying. Europe is holding its breath. Talleyrand, his former minister, who has now turned against him, wants Napoleon destroyed for good.
But there's a problem.
He encounters a problem. He can't just send an assassin to Elba.
Why not?
Because that would make Napoleon a martyr. It would turn the story into a tragedy of a great hero murdered by corrupt politicians. His legend would live on. Talleyrand needed to destroy the legend.
So Talleyrand sets a trap, but it's a narrative trap.
It is brilliant and devious. Talleyrand controlled the information reaching Napoleon on that island. He sent visitors to whisper in Napoleon's ear.
What were they saying?
They told him that the French people still loved him, that the new king was unpopular, and, most importantly, that if Napoleon escaped and returned, the European powers would welcome him back.
They fed him a story of hope, a story where he is still the protagonist.
A false story, a self-fulfilling prophecy of doom.
So Napoleon, believing this narrative, escapes Elba. He marches on Paris.
And this was exactly what Talleyrand wanted, because the reality, the facts, were that France was bankrupt. The people were exhausted by decades of war, and the European powers were united against him.
He lured him back into a fight he couldn't win.
By luring Napoleon back, Talleyrand ensured that Napoleon would be crushed completely, which happened at Waterloo. He was exposed as weak. He was then exiled to St. Helena, a rock in the middle of the ocean from which there was no escape.
Talleyrand didn't fight him with an army. He fought him with a story. You were still the hero.
And Napoleon walked right into it because his ego wanted to believe it. He used Napoleon's own desires to craft a narrative that led to his destruction.
So, bring this down to a non-imperial level. How do we control the narrative in our lives?
It comes down to framing. Greene emphasizes that speed is key. When something happens, a mistake at work, a change in strategy, a piece of bad news, the first explanation often becomes the truth.
If you stay silent, people make up their own reasons, and they usually assume the worst.
Right. So you have to be the one to frame the event. And you do that by connecting it to emotional core. Don't just list facts. Connect the event to themes like justice, or loyalty, or necessity.
And language choice matters here too.
Hugely. Think about the difference between saying, I took a reckless gamble versus I took a bold action.
Right.
Or we're experiencing a needless delay versus we are giving this careful consideration.
Those describe the exact same situation, but the emotional reaction is completely different. One sounds incompetent, the other sounds prudent.
Exactly. You aren't changing the facts. You are changing the lens through which people view the facts. If you don't define the story, your enemies, or just your competitors, will define it for you.
Yeah.
And they will define it in a way that hurts you.
This leads us perfectly into segment 5. You can't do all of this alone. You need strategic alliances.
Power never exists in isolation. It flows through networks. And Greene makes a really important distinction here between transactional help, I pay you, you do this, and a genuine alliance.
The story for this one comes from ancient China. The strategist, Zhuge Liang.
A legendary figure in the Three Kingdoms period.
He was fighting a barbarian king named Mengwo who was attacking the southern border. Now, Liang was a brilliant general. He defeated Mengwo easily and captured him.
Okay, so standard operating procedure here, historical and military, would be to execute the rebel leader, show your strength, end the threat.
But Liang doesn't do that. He releases him. He gives him food and sends him home.
Okay, interesting.
And Mengwo goes back, gathers his army, and attacks again. Liang defeats him and captures him again.
And releases him again.
And releases him again. You're kidding. This happens 7 times.
7 times? It sounds insane. Why would you keep releasing the guy who was trying to kill you? It seems like a waste of resources.
Because Liang wasn't playing the short game. He knew that if he killed Mengwo, the southern tribes would just choose a new leader and keep fighting. There would be endless resentment.
So he'd have to occupy the territory.
He would have to leave a massive army there to occupy the territory forever. He wanted to win the man, not just the war.
Exactly. On the 7th capture, Mengwo was broken. Not physically, but emotionally. He realized that Liang could have killed him at any moment, but chose mercy.
The psychological weight must have been enormous.
The psychological weight of that debt was enormous. He fell to his knees and said, "Your Excellency's divine power has conquered my heart."
And the result.
Meng Huo became a fiercely loyal ally. He protected that southern border for years. Liang never had to worry about the south again.
Wow.
He turned an enemy into a resource. He secured the border without stationing a single soldier there.
That is the bank of goodwill.
That's the application. Coercion is expensive. Fighting costs resources. Winning hearts saves resources. If you have to force people to help you, you are burning energy. If they want to help you, you are gaining energy.
So for you listening, this means looking at your network differently.
Right. Don't just look for who can help you right now. Map out potential allies who have complementary skills. And then, this is the crucial part, practice reciprocity before you need help.
Make the deposit before you try to make a withdrawal.
Send them information they need, help them with a small problem, connect them to someone, build that capital so when you do need an alliance, it's already there. You aren't asking for a favor, you are cashing in a bond.
Okay, final segment. Segment 6. Recover from setbacks.
Because no matter how good you are at reading the room or timing your moves, you will fail. Everyone fails. The master strategist is the one who uses failure as a platform.
The challenge is separating the emotion from the analysis. And for this, we have a story from the 20th century. Bertolt Brecht.
The famous German playwright.
It's 1947, the Red Scare. The House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, is hunting for communists in Hollywood. Brecht is a known Marxist. He wrote revolutionary poems. He is subpoenaed to testify.
This is a lose-lose situation. Other writers tried to fight the committee. They yelled, they argued about the First Amendment, they were self-righteous, and they got destroyed.
Blacklisted, jailed.
Blacklisted, jailed, their careers ruined. The committee loved to fight because it made them look like defenders of America.
Brecht took a different path, a path of compliance.
Strategic compliance. He didn't fight a battle, he couldn't win. He showed up wearing a suit, which he never did. He usually looked like a disheveled artist. He smoked a cigar because he knew the chairman of the committee loved cigars.
Oh, that's clear.
He was incredibly polite. But he played games with them. He used an interpreter, even though his English was perfectly fine.
So he could buy time to think?
Exactly. It gave him time to think while the translation was happening. And when they confronted him with his revolutionary poems, he would ask to hear the German original. Then he would offer a translation that sounded totally innocent.
He confused them.
He confused them with semantics. He made himself boring and slippery. He made it so they couldn't get a grip on him.
And the result?
He was so cooperative and yet so vague that the committee couldn't pin him down. They ended up thanking him for being a good example to the other witnesses.
That is hilarious. The communist revolutionary gets a thank you note from the anti-communist wish hunters.
It's genius. He left the U.S. the next day, on his own terms, free to keep writing in Europe. He didn't let his ego get in the way. He didn't need to scream, "I am right." He needed to survive to write another day.
He yielded to conquer.
That is the analysis. He accepted a tactical surrender, appearing to submit, to secure a strategic victory, his freedom.
The lesson here is reframing.
Yes. When a bad thing happens, don't just wallow in it. Treat it as intelligence. What did I learn about the landscape? What does this tell me about my opponent? Failure is just data.
If you can stay cool enough to analyze it?
If you can stay cool enough to analyze it, you can turn it into an opportunity. Brecht used the hearing to confuse his enemies and escape. He turned a trap into an exit door.
Okay, let's unpack this whole toolkit. We have covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
So, the 48 Laws Deep Dive Recap. 1. Read the invisible currents, like Fouché. Don't just look at the org chart. Look at who people fear.
2. Stage your presentation like Cleopatra. Be the director of your own movie. Curate your artifacts.
3. Control the clock, like Bobby Fischer. Use patience, chaos, and speed as weapons.
4. Write the headline, like Talleyrand. If you don't tell the story, someone else will tell a worse one.
5. Turn enemies to friends, like Chuko Liang. Conversion is cheaper and more effective than war.
And 6. Yield to conquer, like Brecht. Use setbacks as intelligence and tactical surrender to win the long game.
It is a powerful set of tools. It's a complete operating system for social interaction.
It really is.
Now, before we sign off, I want to circle back to the controversy we started with. Is this evil? Does using these tools make you a bad person?
I think we should look at what Robert Greene himself says about this. He argues that often the people who claim to be above power dynamics are actually just playing a different, more passive-aggressive game. He says that resentment often comes from insecurity, from feeling powerless.
So gaining power, or at least understanding it, can actually make you less resentful.
Exactly. When you understand the game, you don't take things as personally. You don't have to use these tools to destroy people. You can use them to get your good ideas heard.
Or to defend yourself.
You can use them to protect your team from a toxic boss.
Yeah.
You can use them to navigate a difficult family situation without a blow-up. The tools are neutral. A hammer can build a house or crack a skull. The morality comes from how you apply them.
Awareness isn't a sin.
Right. And here is the provocative thought I want to leave you with today. Think about the last time you lost. The last time you didn't get the promotion, or you lost the argument, or you felt sidelined and ignored.
Okay.
Be honest with yourself. Did you lose because you were wrong? Did you lose because you weren't talented enough? Or did you lose because you were playing checkers, moving pieces one step at a time, expecting everyone to follow the rules while the other person was playing this game of power?
That is a haunting question.
Once you see the game, you can never unsee it.
And on that note, thanks for diving deep with us. Keep your eyes open, watch those currents, and we'll see you in the next one.
Stay sharp.